Well, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today, and also warm welcome to all of the people that are listening in. With me here on the call, I've got Anna, Helen, Robert, and Diego from my mastermind program. And we're going to be talking about business development and business development in the context of generating business from attorneys and law firms. If you are a neutral, then generating business from non-attorney types of referral parties and clients is also very much in scope for the conversation that we're having here today. And the reason why I personally feel that it's so interesting is that it is a challenging space because we're talking about expanding your network, cultivating relationships, enhancing your visibility. And that's not something that you do overnight. And I'm keen on asking my fellow participants on the call here today some questions on those areas. So welcome, guys. Very, very good to see you. So I'm just gonna
Good to be here.
I'm gonna start us off straight away. So the first question that I have is, what sort of thoughts do you have and potential advice would you have for someone that's just starting out, trying to develop their business? Any mistakes that you did that you would do differently looking back with the knowledge that you have today?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and start. I think one of the important things, and I think my colleagues would agree with me, is when you get started, you really have to differentiate initially between uh, law firms and attorneys that are going to be clients and those that are really colleagues, other neutrals, and because really you will be getting your business from the client group rather than from the colleague group. The colleague group is still very interested in holding on to their business, and especially if you're good at what you used to do, they get a little uneasy with your entry into the business. And so I found that a lot of my neutral colleagues were not as open to giving me advice. So what I started to do was I reached out to my attorney client friends and said, okay, what is it that you look for in a neutral? How can I help you? What do you need? And this kind of relates to one of the mistakes that I made. One of the mistakes I made initially was trying to be a jack of all trades, but I immediately learned that my attorney clients wanted me to specialize, and they were more interested in that. So I moved away from being a jack of all trades to just being a specialist. So that was my experience.
Thank you, Diego. Anything to add to that from the rest of the group? Anna?
Well, I agree with Diego, and I would just amplify that by saying that I think there is an assumption. My own personal background. I've been a lawyer for 40 years, and I've been a mediator for 27 of those 40 years. But up until about a year ago, 2 years ago, I tried to mix and match. I did mediation and I did litigation, and that got to be a little bit cumbersome when if I'm a neutral with a lawyer one day and I'm his opponent the next day. So I had to make a choice and chose mediation. But I think a lot of people just starting out have the assumption that, well, I'm tired of litigating, so I'll just go be a mediator, as though that's an easy thing to do. And I think they're surprised to find that the phone doesn't ring and nobody comes to your door. And so it takes work to work those sources, and it takes a while to build up that business, that clientele, and it doesn't happen quickly. So I think people need to be prepared that when they're going to make that transition, there's going to be an empty period there for a while you build up that business.
Anna, sorry, we're interested in hearing what you have to add.
Sort of following up with Diego's remarks, it is so tempting to sign up for seminars and attend training events and basically rub elbows with people who are in the business, whatever that business may be for you, whether you're an expert or a neutral or whatever sort of business you would like to generate with lawyers. If lawyers aren't there, you're not going to be able to generate the business by hanging out with other people who are in fact your competition. So I certainly endorse that observation. And as a former full-time litigator myself as well, there are many, many ways that lawyers receive pitches: email, cold calls, lots of different ways that you receive pitches. The ones that are most effective are either referrals from other attorneys or even other staff members in my office, or through some other kind of connection, some mutual acquaintance. No matter how tenuous, if it is an engaging conversation with some mutual interest, that goes a long way to establishing a relationship that could result in the referral. And finally, in law firms, they keep their own internal list generally of experts and neutrals and service providers that they really, really like and that they're going to tell their colleagues about. So my suggestion is, don't hesitate to ask if there is such a list, and if so, would they consider putting you on it?
I think that's very, very solid advice. I could add a lot, but I'm not here to do the talking today. So Helen, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Anna.
I'm gonna actually dovetail to something Anna just said. And that's something I would tell people that I know, which is never take a no from a person who is not in a position to give you a yes, right? So don't sort of chicken out too easily. It sometimes it takes courage to move forward and ask, like Anna said, ask about that list. But when I say don't take a no from somebody who isn't in a position to give you a yes, that's really speaking to yourself. Don't talk yourself out of doing something because of fear. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. You never know. So
Absolutely.
those are my thoughts.
Great suggestions. Thank you for that. And if there's not anything to add, then shall we move on to the second point? So the second question that I have for you, if we look at your situation today, now you're more established. You're not in those early days of your business. So what would you say are the most important factors for you today to get more work? I mean, you're already busy and sometimes extremely busy, but I guess one can always get more busy or busier with the types of work that one likes to do. So what would you say about that?
I would say don't take anything for granted.
Yes.
You have your referral sources, and you have people that send you multiple mediations every year, but don't take that for granted. You have to take care of these people. You have to reach out. You have to be sure that you are providing the service for them that they need, and those needs may change over time. So you have to continually reach out and maintain that relationship. It takes work, it takes time, but it is vital to keeping that business continuing to come. You also have to be an expert, and I don't mean just on the subject matter of your mediations, but you have to be very good at what you do in all aspects. From the time they call your office, the scheduling person has to know what they're doing. You have to make it very easy for these people to schedule with you. If your calendar's online, it has to work. The process has to flow. If you're doing things on Zoom, you've got to know Zoom. You've got to know how to move people around effortlessly. You've got to know how to fix the communication issues that inevitably will come up, because what you want at the end of all of that, you want that person to leave the mediation and go, it's really easy to work with him. Much more than these other people. I really like working with him because I really don't have to do anything. He does it all. That's the impression you want them to leave with, and that takes work to maintain.
Yeah, definitely. So two key points there. First one being, even if you're busy, you still have to make sure that you take care of your existing referral parties and clients. And second point being, you need to make sure that you really excel and do the job and deliver your services better than anyone else.
Yeah, kind of adding to what Robert said, you know, it really becomes, you know, marketing and making yourself visible, making it easier for the clients to contact you. That should almost become second nature. You know, it's very much like being a professional athlete. You know, professional athletes know that when they get up in the morning, regardless of their gender, they're going to get up, they're going to exercise, they're going to do their initial workout, they're going to do their mental training to get ready for their competitions, for the challenges that they face and what they do. It's the same thing for us, you know, and I had never, before I had signed up with you, Dan, I had never really thought of it that way. I mean, it made sense, but then, you know, kind of as we began to work together, you know, and started to think about it, you know, that's when I began to realize, you know, the marketing never stops. You know, promoting the brand never stops. Using something Robert just said, you know, promoting the fact that I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for attorneys to reach out to me, and especially, you know, getting those folks, those referral service points to basically say, yeah, you know, it's really easy working with Helen. It's really easy working with Anna. It's easy working with Robert, you know, getting them to continue to say that, because, you know, that referral means a heck of a lot more than something that I might say about my business. So developing those referral points is extremely important. Yeah. And that's now become just second nature with me. It's hard to do, you know, because you know, you're looking at my staff. So, you know, when you're a staff of one, it's really hard. But, you know, if you make it a habit, it starts to come natural.
Yeah, thank you, Diego.
Yeah.
Also, don't overlook the value of continuing to find places to write or to speak. The opportunity to go before groups that may or may not be strictly lawyers, but certainly places where lawyers go, the women's lawyers associations, sometimes there are minority, like there's an Asian bar and there can be an African-American bar. The places where attorneys or their staffs may go to speak or to do an article for their newsletter. Those are also good ways that you can be doing during the day or between mediations to expand your influence and your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to add? Thank you, Anna. Helen, I saw you.
Yeah, thank you. So just a small thing. It's, you know, when somebody reaches out to me and they say, Helen, you know, interested in your services, whatever, I have a set period of time that I want to respond by. Now, like I try and make it by, you know, the end of the day, if possible, and if not, certainly not too far into the next day. That's about my limit. You know, I don't want to go beyond that. And I am always surprised by the response, which is, wow, thank you for getting back to me so quickly.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, really, it's just courtesy, number one. But I've always been surprised by that. So I think it goes back years ago. I worked in advertising and they had certain philosophies. And I guess I picked up a couple of things along the way. And that is get back right away. You know, and then also once you've completed whatever service you're providing them, something like an email to say thank you or a personalized video goes a very long way. You know, and it's surprising. Wow, like with a video, it's what a neat way to get a hold of me. Thank you so much for your thank you.
Yeah.
So it's great. So
we've got big fans of video messages in the group.
Yes, I love them. And as Diego pointed out just a moment ago, you're looking at the company. I'm the company. So, you know, it's you know, I do everything.
Yeah, you know,
and everybody else.
Yeah, Helen, my rule of thumb is 24 hours. And when I conclude a mediation, something that I started to do, I got this suggestion from another mediator. In fact, it was a lady that I used to clerk with years ago. What she recommended was basically sending a coffee gift card to the lawyers on both sides with a thank you card. And that, I've already purchased those ahead of time. I put a handwrite the thank you note, put it in the mail, so that if it doesn't go out that evening, it'll go out the very next day. And then, it's like they get some coffee on me. And the good thing is it's not, I usually don't pay more than $20, because think about it, that's about 4 cups of coffee nowadays. But it's a great thank you, because it's as if you're sitting down with them having coffee later.
That's a great idea. I'm taking note of that.
Yeah, I just wrote that down, Diego.
Y'all have already given me some ideas, so I figured hey, I'd go ahead and give you guys some.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I think there's so many different things that you can do, but if I should, because we're getting into the final part of our conversation, but if I should commend you guys about something, and there's lots to say, but one thing is, it's very easy to find one thing that we feel very good about. Let me buy those copy cards is a great idea, but in isolation, that's not going to help move the dial. So what you're doing is you're deploying basically the full system. And as I think you said, Diego, at some point, it becomes second nature. You just know what to do and how to do it, and you do it across the board. So it works as a system.
And that's right. Helen, did you want to say something?
I'm going to interrupt for 2 seconds. I just had a thought as we were talking about the coffee cards and with Dan's comment. Wouldn't it be neat if we could have our own company logos printed on those coffee cards, in addition to the company that we're buying them from? So they're always there. That coffee card with your company name is always there.
I understand someone's doing that. I think someone is doing that,
really?
Actually. I just never got into it because again, I'm like you, Helen, I'm a company of one, so I'm the staff, and it's a lot easier for me to just go to the store and get the cards, and that way I get them out quick.
Yeah, that's a great
I'm
idea.
just writing. I'm writing that down too.
More note taking.
Great suggestion.
That's great. That's great suggestions. Anything else to sort of add? I think you've definitely elaborated on the space, so I'm happy to move on to the next question. Good stuff. All right. So for the final point, not a competition, but obviously I think it's interesting for the listeners to hear your thoughts about what you see as the main benefits of working with me and performance laws with our programs. Now, you're all in the mastermind program, so that's, I guess, the most relevant to comment on.
Well,
go
ahead,
Diego.
Robert.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, for me, unlike Robert, I had been in a corporate environment for almost 30 years. And so I retired in 2019. And when I did, when I reached out to performance laws, I had only started my mediation practice. So starting early, one of the things I would really recommend to folks is starting the program early, especially if you're like me, where you haven't had to market. I was an in-house lawyer. And so for me, having to learn a lot of this, be exposed to it, think about it, because, I used to market myself internally in a much different way than outside lawyers would, even though I was a litigator. So thinking about how to do that really, really helped. And the other thing that I found too about the program is because I was doing both arbitration and mediation, and because I wanted to develop my mediation practice. But what ended up happening was I used these techniques to expand my arbitration practice. And now my arbitration practice has really grown exponentially. And it continues to grow. And I'm using the same techniques that we were basic, that your system helped us with, Dan, with regards to mediation, but I'm using it for arbitration. So really, it's really exploded, and it's been very, very helpful. So I would recommend to anyone who starts the program to follow up with it, because it really helped me. It changed my entire mindset. The expansion of my business. I really, performance laws and the mastermind program were just a big factor in my success.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and it's easy for me to say, Diego, but I always say pretty much what you're saying, that don't wait for the perfect opportunity to start with business development, whether it's with me or with someone else, but just don't wait for all the stars to be aligned, because it probably won't happen. So it's just better to get started rather than wait to get started. So, but I'm going to let Anna,
to piggyback on that, Dan, it's never too late either.
Absolutely.
Right.
All the what I had been doing, essentially, serving pro bono as a settlement conference judge, and then thinking and dreaming and hoping and attending mediation training sessions. That's really only part of the picture. And when I finally found performance laws and got the program, got the system, got the method to start thinking strategically about my target and who I need to contact, and identifying those people and identifying how to reach them, and then doing it, and then following up on doing it. All these things that are part of the performance law system has made enormous difference. Enormous.
Thank you, Anna.
I really enjoyed when Dan and I were initially connecting. Dan understood the mindset of a mediator.
We've been working together for a long time, you and I, Helen.
I know we have,
Yeah.
and I have worked with somebody else in the past, and there was not that connection. The person was very, very general in their approach, right? But I really like the fact that Dan has his own target market. And I really enjoyed that. And I found that very beneficial, because I knew he understood what I was talking about. So I found that great. And then, of course, fine tuning how I approach my clients and moving forward from there. I found that the biggest advantage in working with Dan is that he understands the mind of a mediator and arbitrator.
Thank you, Helen.
Well, I totally agree with my colleagues, and I would just simply add that I remember I became associated with Dan right as the pandemic was hitting, everything was shutting down, and I had a busy practice. I had a good mediation practice. I wasn't starting from scratch. I felt like I had good referral sources, but then it seemed as though the world was coming to an end, and that's when I met Dan. And I remember very vividly our first call. We had our initial call, and I hung up from that call thinking, gee, I hope he takes me on as a client. I will be very fortunate if he takes me on as a client. And he did, and I am. Because I think Anna mentioned the system, and that's what's so important. It's things that somewhere in the dark recesses of our mind, we intellectually know we need to be doing. But what Dan does is shines the light in that dark corner and brings that all to a focus. And he's very systematic, and he virtually forces you to think about these things. But what I've realized is that it is an ongoing, it's sort of like being on a diet. You can't be on a diet Monday and Tuesday and then come back next Thursday and lose any weight. So what Dan has, his system does is forces you to pay attention to these things all the time. And if you do, and you trust the system, your practice will absolutely transform, and mine has.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Yeah, Robert, I jumped in at the same time because I initially signed up for Dan's, it was just a single class that Dan did on virtual mediation, doing it by Zoom. And Dan, I think, came out with it like, what, Dan, probably about within a month of the pandemic. I mean, it was fairly soon. So I signed up for it because I had gotten a mediation and we were going to do it by Zoom. And I wanted to make sure I knew what to do and make sure, because I didn't have, again, it was that whole notion that I really wasn't getting help from anyone. So, and it was a lot of stuff that we know, but seeing it all together in a system, just pre-packaged for me, just helped me. And it made a world of difference, because from that, I got a referral for another case down the road. So that was really good. So, and then from there, my experience in working with Dan was the same as was said. I can't remember if it was Helen or Anna who said it. That says, hey, I got to work with this guy. So after that, it's like, boom, I just jumped and signed up for the initial performance laws, and then just jumped into Mastermind, and it's been great. I mean, the coaching's been, I think I said this before at another time. It's just worth its weight in gold. I mean, it's been a great investment.
Thank you very
Unlike
much.
other marketing programs, when you're approaching lawyers, it's different. And if you haven't been a lawyer yourself, you've come from another field, perhaps you're in advertising or marketing, or perhaps you are an expert and have become very proficient in your field. If you want to market yourself to lawyers, you have to know what they're looking for and how to reach them. And that's what performance laws focuses on. Like Diego said, I was going to be a generalist, but now I focus, and we have that focus, and it's very helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's fantastic feedback, and I hope and I think for those listening in that it's been a useful session. Lots of high-level advice, and also very detailed advice, coffee cards and other activities and gadgets and giveaways. So I think that sort of concludes our conversation for today. It's been great having you. Thanks so much for taking the time. And I look forward to speaking to all of you individually and on our next mastermind call.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Thanks, Dan. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you. Thanks.